So let's go back a bit, quite a lot really. And I've heard you talk about kind of school and the way that you responded to challenge there. And I was interested in how your early life shaped who you are today as an athlete and as an individual. Big question, I know, but
I think my early life as a runner, I guess I wasn't actually a runner initially. I'd say I'm a sportswoman rather than a runner, and to this day, I'd still say I'm a sportswoman rather than a runner. But I've always been very sporty. I've been very lucky that I have always been kind of surrounded by sport and team sport and that kind of ethos that sport gives you. Which I think was probably one of the biggest things initially that kind of like drew me into it, and then I've been naturally very competitive. Prep school, played sports, was always very sporty. I actually went to an all-girls school when until sixth form, and that school wasn't particularly sporty. I do think at that moment it was probably, I actually went out of school quite a lot to do sport. I was in the England programme for netball, and mum and dad used to drive me to Sheffield to train every weekend, or Bradford, I think it was every Tuesday, and mummy sit in the car for like 2 hours with a woolly hat on and the gloves on, waiting for me to finish training and then drive me back home or back to school or whatever. So I've been very lucky that I've had amazing support, but I also have, I think, until I went to sixth form, it has been kind of externally driven as well. So yeah, long-winded answer to that. But that's kind of where the team sport element started. And then went to Sedbergh in Cumbria in the Lakes for sixth form, which was a very sporty school. And at that time, I didn't want to do A-levels. I've never been academic. I've always been sporty. And Sedbergh, my parents wanted to keep me in kind of private search education. And Sedbergh and another school down south were the only two options that did BTEC. So Sedbergh was kind of one that drew me to it.
So there's a sporty side, and you touched a little bit on the competitive side, but was there a moment where something clicked between those two, where you were, which also brought you to endurance sports as well? Because there's a different, netball was obviously a big part of life you were growing up, and then that's a big jump to then getting into it.
I think, so my endurance side purely came from when I was at Sedbergh, and I guess I've always been like, I played hockey, I played netball, and I was like centre, or I was like centre, like forward in hockey or whatever, midfield in hockey. So I've always been like the one that would like always go for longer and like would like graft, and I would always be the kind of one that would like put in probably a lot of effort, most of the effort. But I also am competitive, but only in things I like. Like, asked me to do a maths exam, and I literally couldn't care if I came last or failed. But asked me to do whatever in sporting elements, and I'd literally be like on it. Yeah. So there's definitely competitive, but it's definitely lines in the passion rather than, I'm not just generally competitive. I'm competitive in what I love. But yeah, then I went to Sedbergh, and in my final year at school, I stopped doing kind of the external regional county national sports because I was in Cumbria, and it was kind of, the school actually had a pretty high standard of sport anyway, so I was kind of like, I will just stick to school sport, give up that. And Sedbergh was quite far from home, so it was kind of no opportunity to kind of leave school and do it. And then went final year at school, a lady called Michelle Rothwell, who actually I think is based in Manchester. I'm going to say this wrong, but I hadn't seen her since I left school until I was in Chamonix for UTMB week in August. And to this day, I actually don't know if it's her. I still need to find out. But someone shouted, Imo, it's Michelle. And we're all literally like, is that Michelle? So who knows? I probably should reach out to her. But Michelle Rothwell came to do a talk at school. And she did the Arch to Arch. When you run from London to Dover, swim the English Channel, and cycle from Calais to Paris. And I might get my facts wrong, but she wasn't a swimmer, could not swim. And she taught herself to swim and then swam the channel. And she was also an incredible public speaker. And I think she was so engaging, which not only what she did I thought was amazing, but how she spoke was just amazing. And I think that's what kind of drew me in. And yeah, I think I had an itch that I wanted to scratch, and I kind of didn't reach my potential in team sport because I kind of stopped it as such to continue at school. And I thought that the body challenge, which it's what I created in kind of memory as such of her, which was a marathon, 10K lake swim, and a cycle back from Lake Windermere, which is where the challenge took place, to Sedbergh. Yeah, very long-winded, but
no, fantastic. And this body challenge, so I didn't know about the body challenge, and I heard you on a podcast and you were talking about it, and I was listening to it on a run, and I think I stopped running. Like, I'm sorry, what? There's a challenge in the Lake District named after you. That's incredible. So you've kind of almost played that down a little bit, I think, because you were inspired by Michelle. You adapted the inspiration that you felt from that into something that you could control and manage, and then you went for it, and now it's how many years has it been going for?
Well, I think this is going to be another conversation, but in order to kind of like achieve these things, it is a 90% mindset and commitment and sacrifice. And in my last year at school, I made the decision, you could call it sacrifice, I didn't call it sacrifice because it's a career now and I'm so happy, but I probably didn't get as involved in the school socials, and I definitely kind of missed out. Not I said I didn't miss out because I'm pleased I did it, but like missed out on things. And not to downplay any of the people to Sedbergh, because I think anyone that goes to Sedbergh, it's an incredible school and you've got to be incredibly resilient to kind of live in the lakes and kind of, do what they do. But I think academically, I had time because I did BTEC, so it kind of narrows down the kind of capacity of who could do the body challenge now. And also it's a brutal challenge. I was 17 and it's what I love, and not that many people love it when they're 17 anyway. So it's kind of been on and off. This year, I don't think it's actually been done. But next year, I think there's someone that's going to do it. So it's kind of, I'd like it to be an annual thing, but I think it's kind of,
you've established the parameters of that challenge.
Exactly.
And you've made it accessible to other people.
Exactly.
Because I actually think, and this is the bit that I've really been interested in your story, this kind of thread that as I listen to you talk, I've kind of identified this thing where, and you might recognize it, you might not. You're very much somebody who comes up with an idea and then takes action against that idea. Because lots of people could think, I want to do something from the endurance world, and I want to do something that nobody's ever done before. And before they know it, a year's gone by where they're trying to bring that to life and overthink it, and it's not actually happened. Whereas starting with the body challenge and then moving on to joggle and then moving on to 3 peaks, it just feels like you're someone that kind of comes up with the concept, works it out as you go, and gets it done because you love it.
Yeah, I mean, completely. I think there's also an element of, I couldn't agree more. And I would say I have hustled for it. And my biggest thing, and when I go on these podcasts now, I'm very, very aware that I am probably like, sit here and I sound like a privileged person that kind of has been given things, but I really haven't. And like, that is the point I really try and get across now, because I think stigma in life is, so much. And I have hustled for it. I mean, I was very lucky that when I was at school, I had support from my games teachers that supported me. But kind of since then, I ran 7 marathons in 7 days. Yes. And when I first did that, I was working at a gym, and I very much kind of funded that challenge through kind of, as someone does, through like working. And I, it's not being kind of, I had no sponsors and I had no profile and I had no kind of pedigree behind me. And I just did it because I did it in London because financially I lived in London and that made the most sense and whatever. So yeah, I mean, would definitely do have an idea, but I do hustle for it. It's not only kind of like, I have an idea.
It lands on your lap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly. But I think that's the bit that I find really, really interesting and exciting, because I know what it would take to make that happen, regardless of what your situation is. None of these things are the training for it, the sacrifice, the logistics, getting everybody on board, keeping the focus on what you're trying to achieve and your goal, and not being sidetracked by other things or feelings like I can't do it or I shouldn't be doing it or everybody thinks I'm crazy.
Yeah.
And still going ahead and doing it. So I totally appreciate that. And I also appreciate the position that you're in when you have these conversations, to emphasize that point, that these things aren't easy for anybody. And I think, it's almost like always having to over-explain.
I know, I feel like I'm like
very aware of it. Yeah, no, I understand. And I think just on the 7 marathons, 7 days. So it was that when you were at the gym and then you met Joshua Patterson.
Yeah.
Is that correct? And he was quite influential, wasn't he?
Yeah, he So Josh obviously built a profile through, not obviously, but Josh was made in Chelsea, which is the kind of reality TV in Chelsea in London. And he built his profile through that. And that's kind of, he's obviously had that kind of underlying love for challenges, but like he built his profile through reality TV and then kind of supports his challenges now for having a profile on Instagram. I knew him actually because he had just done I'm gonna like downplay it because I actually can't remember what it was, but he had done like either 24 hours or 48 hours running around his patio, and it was like a tiny, like as big as this room, like if you can see the room and listening and watching, but like tiny, and I was like amazed by it. And I think there's like a lot more, I think because of social media there's a lot more kind of, I mean, challenges have obviously been going on for years. You're obviously around yourself, you know all about these incredible like races and challenges that kind of go on, I guess FKTs and kind of self-supported challenges or supported challenges are a lot more kind of spoken about now because of Instagram, but they've obviously been on for years. But Josh, I'd say, was probably one of the first people kind of with an Instagram big presence, social media, who kind of did challenges. Anyway, that was a very long-winded answer to, he was in the gym. He goes to the gym in Fulham, which is where I worked, which is a very little gym, which I actually, when I applied, didn't realise it was kind of like, I guess it was kind of like a influencer social media hub, which actually, to be honest, as much as people say things about influencers, it's been amazing for me to kind of meet those people. Anyway, Josh was running the treadmill, and I remember sitting at the front of house. I was a personal trainer, and I think being a personal trainer in London, you are like a tiny fish in the biggest pond. And I was kind of like, how am I ever gonna I was losing my love for personal training and gym floor work. And I was thinking, how am I ever going to kind of make my mark in this world and in this industry? And chatted to Josh, and I went up to him and I was like, I kind of know you through whatever you've done, I really want to get into running. I feel like it's my calling, but I just don't even know where to start. I'm losing my love for for sort of strength training and personal training. And I'm currently, like, not to put it down because I think, you've got to start somewhere, but I was currently a front of house at a gym and kind of just didn't know where to go. And at the time, Josh put me in contact with a guy called Ben Parker, who at the time was just doing kind of one-to-one running coach sessions and programming. And we used to run together. We ended up running together like 3 times a week, which was amazing, in-person sessions. He's now gone on to do runner. But it kind of went from there. And he's still a very big support, and has been very helpful and supportive and
I think inspired a lot of people
completely,
and made and I think by showing action, not just talking about it. It's interesting that the point you made about influencers, again, almost having to apologize or kind of over explain about there is a lot of good within this growing community
completely.
And I think, like, for want of a better phrase, the cream rises to the top. The people that are inspiring and inspire people to actually do things rather than just follow in quite a superficial way, that there is a huge amount of value in those people, and the way that they talk about things can often help someone really kind of shift their mentality and shift their lives in the same way that, the conversation you had with Josh was probably quite pivotal when you look back at moments in your life where you're like, I was lost, I didn't know what I was doing, and all I needed was someone that I respected just to believe in me and say,
completely,
oh, actually no, you can do it, there is a path for you too, you just have to go, and that's what you did. And I think that's really, I think there's a real lot of positivity in that. Great, you're still friends.
We're still very good friends.
That's good.
He's a very good guy.
So let's go to joggle, okay? Because this is the moment for me when I think about things that I've heard you talk about in the past. This is the moment for me where I really think, where did the confidence come from? And this sounds like a bad question, but I kind of know from my experience of setting myself challenges, particularly kind of running challenges, I will have a moment of thinking, that's out of my league, or I'm stepping out of my lane. I don't, that's very much out of my lane. I can't go to that distance, so I can't do that particular thing. And I think as I've got older, I've accepted the fact that actually there is no lane for me and I can decide the parameters of that. But I'm 42. So I just feel that that's taken me quite a long time to get to that level of competence. Whereas deciding to do joggle, how old are you? 19, 20?
I'm 25 now.
How old were you when you joggled?
21. 22. 21.
To to be able to be in that moment of, you know, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the whole thing. I can do it. This is within my lane. Was that real? Was it? Did you have that moment of like, no, I can just go and do it. I can do anything. Or was there a sense of, I'm stepping out of my lane here. Can I do it? Or how did you feel making that decision?
I think firstly, which I do think was one of the biggest positives, I was so naive.
Right. I kind of wanted to ask that as well.
Yeah, I was.
Confidence or naivety?
It was naivety, and like I speak to my coach about it still, and he's like, we were talking about another athlete quite recently, and we were saying like she performed very well in a race like 3 years ago, and she's still a very good athlete, but she hasn't performed as well since. And we were like, it's because like it's a naivety. You go into it and you're just like, well, just give it all because just give it everything because you don't know. So I think firstly it was naivety.
I'm so glad you said that.
But also I think, I mean, my biggest training week for joggle was was big. It was in reality relatively to what I do now. It was 100 miles, so 160k was my biggest training week, and I did 2 back-to-back 160k training weeks, and then I'd covered that in 2.5 days on joggle. And I guess ultimately, you know, your body, you know, the older you get, the more prepared you are, the more training you do, the more experience you gain, etc., etc. But I was so naive. And I remember starting, I was actually talking about this quite recently, that when I started joggle, like I didn't have Ben coaching, I had a different coach, and I didn't feel prepared. Like even looking back now, I'm like, I remember having like a slight niggle in my knee and being like, okay, how are we going to kind of manage this? And for 22 days of running 60k a day. But I think I'm such a just do it person.
Yes,
and like
I could see that.
I think maybe sometimes I should think more, but I'm also kind of like,
we'll work it out.
Yeah, I even remember last year we went my mum's birthday in July, and I just quit my job as a this is moving very forward, but I just quit my job as a PA, and I had no sponsors. She had no plan. And I remember I was talking to Solomon, who I'm now signed with, but like nothing was concrete. And I remember being with Mum on Mum's birthday, and some of her friends were there, and they're like, so what are you doing, Imo? And I was like, just manifesting. It's like, I'm going to be working with Solomon next year. I was like, they're like, you're so chill. And I was like, yeah, like, it's fine. And I guess like you do, I just kind of, you guess like in obviously in life, you have to cut back or, you know, make sacrifices or, you know, do rubbish jobs for a couple of months to kind of make it work and then or whatever. But so let's do it.
Starting juggle with that sense of naivety, which I do think, the reason why I love you saying it is because I actually think that the over planning can destroy that naivety and the worry and anxiety that sits alongside over planning. Whereas actually, what you had was this almost like kind of glorious innocence of like, I believe in myself and I'm going to just take this challenge as it comes. So then, what happened when the actual challenge kicked in and the niggle? How did your mindset? Because then the reality is facing you, isn't it? The reality of what you've got to do. Your day 3, day 4, day 5, and you're thinking there's a long way to go. How did you then confront your own mind? Because your mind is probably then saying to yourself, Imo, what have we done? And what's the conversation like that keeps you going?
Well, I mean, firstly, when we were planning it, like this is no word of a lie, I genuinely thought at one point, Mum, Dad, and I would just use Google Maps and we'd just kind of like go
in that direction,
go to John O'Groats and just kind of plot as we go along, and just we had a camper van booked and like that was it. Like genuinely had no other plan. And this is where I actually remember speaking to Josh, and he was like, I think you should get someone to help with logistics. And I was like, yeah, maybe. And then spoke to Chris Taylor, who's now my coach. And he was like, Chris was like, do you want me to come? And we were like, I didn't have that much budget. So I was thinking, okay, paying for someone to be with me for 22 days plus like travel. I was a bit like, so we were going to cut down and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long story short, we ended up having him for those 22 days. And if we didn't have him, I mean, I have no idea kind of what we would have done. We remember sitting in a hotel in Johnny Groat the day before we started, and Chris sat down and was like to Mum and Dad, so usually we don't do these things with loved ones. And Mum and Dad were like, right. And also my parents, like, they're incredible. They're so supportive, but they are kind of like, I mean, they were also so naive to it. Like, you know,
she says she could.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this, like, before I'd done 3 peaks, I thought that was, and I guess it's all relative, and you know, the more experience you gain, etc., as all said, but that at that time it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I got an injury. My knee was kind of niggling, but that was kind of minor. But I got quite a severe injury, which I thought was a stress fracture on like day 8, I think it was. And at that time, because I'd never done anything like that in that capacity, I remember walking for 50k, which in like reality now, they're like walking 50k, like, and then it sounds ridiculous because walking 50k is a solid effort, but like it's quite normal. Like if you were in an ultra, you would walk for 50k. Like if you were doing 100k, you might walk for 50 of it or whatever. But at the time, I remember just being like, I can't walk for 50k, or like I can't move my feet for 10 hours. This is crazy. And as like as I said, you kind of
then go to bed and do it tomorrow.
Exactly. And that day I remember I walked for 50k and then cut a 10k short because I didn't want to do that final 10k, and then I remember being like, now I've got to do 65k the following day and then whatever. But yeah, I guess naivety was the biggest blessing. And
then from that naivety, what I can hear you saying is that you have been doing all of your career is putting these building blocks down of evidence and proof that I can walk 50k, I can be on my feet for 10 hours, I can be on my feet for 24 hours if I need to be, and that. And one of the things that I'm always so interested in is the whole concept of resilience and building resilience. And obviously it's a huge, much talked about topic in the endurance space and ultra running space, because that's what we're all trying to do, isn't it? Build that physical strength in our bodies, but also within our minds as well, so that when we reach the tough moments, we open up that box of evidence that says you can walk 50k, you can walk 100k. In fact, you've done something much harder than this, you've done harder than that. And was that juggle for you, building that those bricks?
Definitely. I think also though, because this sounds very kind of I guess maybe this is a way to put it, but I have, ever since leaving school, I was a personal trainer, and then I've kind of been a semi-athlete, and then I guess now I'm kind of a full-time athlete, full-time runner. And so my resilience and like my determination, I guess, is the path I've taken, but has always been through sport. But I guess this conversation is it's about resilience, isn't it? But it's also kind of slightly more sporting focused because it's kind of you asking me questions, but also like resilience, obviously, as we know, comes in so many forms. So I feel like I'm aware and like I am talking about my journey, but I guess it's also kind of also a career. So like I guess it's kind of like anything, isn't it? Like I should bring my sister into it because she's a big kind of inspiration to me, but she does venture capital, something like works in finance. I couldn't think of anything worse. I literally couldn't think of anything worse. But she gets up at whatever time in the morning, goes to the gym, goes to the office Monday to Friday, which I guess I know most normal people do, but it's, she's so resilient to do that and like has that determination to do that. And she's done her finance exams, and I couldn't think of anything worse than sitting down, and she's doing more exams now. And I'm literally like, why the hell are you doing another exam? But, she wants to further her career in that sense. So I guess like anything and anyone, or, if you have a shot, I guess resilience comes in so many different aspects, but like I am resilient, but it's a career, but also a passion.
Thank you so much for making that transition of the endurance and resilience conversation over into the real world,
the real life.
It's because it is a real subject that I'm really interested in, really quite passionate about, and I talk about it a lot because I kind of have this in my head, almost like two personalities. I run a business, and also I adore running, and I love what running brings to my life. And for me, I kind of have this mad routine of I run from the Peak District into work every day, and
how far is that?
18 kilometers.
Oh my gosh!
And on a Monday, I bring my suitcase into work with all my clothes, my little tiny trousers, and then I run in on Tuesday to Friday, and then on Saturday weekend I have my fun run in the hills rather than running down the street. And the reason that I talk about that isn't because it's look at my running, everyone celebrate my running. It's because when I go into work, I already know that I've done something really hard that day. I got up and I got out of bed, and it was dark, and I put a head torch on, and I went out, put my gloves on because it's cold, and I went out and did it.
Yeah.
And then I get into work, and everything that I do from that moment forwards during the working day if something challenging comes along or I don't know what I have to face, I just need to think to myself, you've already done something really hard today. You've already won. You've won the day.
Yeah.
You're okay.
Yeah.
You can handle whatever happens next, the difficult conversation that you need to have, or the challenging client that you need to deal with, or whatever else. And it brings so much to my life beyond just running, but beyond everything that running brings me in terms of the headspace and the joy and the alone time and the opportunity to process things, and physically the strength that I have within my body, but the resilience that I bring to my team and my life and my business is game changing, absolutely game changing for me. And I talk about it a lot to people, and it's very hard to find people who really get that, because they get too fixated on the running bit. Too fixated about, you run every day. I'm like, forget about that. It's something hard that I've just done. That's what I want you to understand. Like your sister going to the gym, staying up late doing her research, or you know, cramming for exams and had missed everything else. That's the thing. And it's about understanding the value of the process as well as the goal. So I just talk about it all the time, and I hope that when I talk about it, somehow it just gets infiltrated.
I know, no, completely. I'm completely the same. And like, I remember speaking to someone recently, and they said, "Do you enjoy public speaking?" And I was like, to be honest, I actually really, this sounds ridiculous because I'm well aware that like I have a like profile or whatever, but I actually hate talking about myself. Like I hate, like, I don't like, my story's cool, like whatever, but like I don't find that interesting. I'm more just like, I didn't go to university. I kind of have been doing my own thing since. I've only just got a proper sponsor as a runner, and I've been kind of running now for however long. And it's like, it's just, that's what I like love sharing about, just like keep going, keep hustling, follow your own path, do your own thing, and just like manifest, and like it will kind of fall into place. And kind of, obviously there are so many ups and downs with it, and you know, your support network, who are your true support network, will stick with you and support you. And I feel like that's like my message, rather than kind of like, I did 3P, so I did joggle, they're cool, but like that's not the point. It's like, bring it back to kind of like what you kind of been through and whatever.
That's so important and so inspiring. And I feel sometimes like we had this conversation, haven't we, Stefan, where Stefan is of the same type of mentality as us, about like kind of getting up and doing the thing, but whether that's meditating or just taking the time to do something on a regular basis, even if it's 5-10 minutes a day, just to give yourself that, because your life is worth that. And I think as soon as you start to embed these things into your life and you do them consistently, you've given your life that little bit more value. It's like valuing yourself, and you start to see it as a gift and not a hard thing anymore. See it as a gift that you can, and that you're so, and the pride that you feel in yourself. And you start to feel all the value from it. It stops being a tough thing anymore, and it starts to feel a little bit about who you really are. And then the next best thing is to then share that with others. And, you know, one of my questions I wanted to get to at the end, but to talk about it now is, you know, what's the big story or legacy? You know, what do you want people, when they think about Imo, to think of? Because it'd be so easy for us to think of, juggle. Great peaks. What's she doing next? And the next annoying question that you must get asked all the time, when the reality is like, what do you want to be known for?
What do I want to be known for? I think independence is probably one thing. Mum gets like actually quite angry at me. She's like, "You're so independent." I'm like, yes, I am independent. I think independence is a big thing. And I think, like, I didn't go to university. I remember, like, we were actually talking about this as at a friend's house this weekend. And the guy actually said it. And then he was like, "I didn't mean this in the wrong way to everyone else, but like, I didn't go to university because it wasn't for me. There was like, there's other reasons it wasn't for me. And also, like, I just kind of have made it work. Whereas a lot of people go to university, which is fine, like totally fine. But I'm also the biggest believer of like, if it's not for you, don't just do it. It's kind of waste time because they don't know what they want to do, which is fine. And like, I get it. But I think for me, I just kind of want, I guess it's independence, and kind of, I also just like someone that's kind of wants to reach. I haven't reached my potential as an athlete yet, and I guess I want to. So I don't know. I want to be known for striving to be better, I guess, and hopefully inspiring to do that. But yeah, I don't want to be known for like a specific thing. Just more, just kind of like been trying to be the best person.
Yeah. And I think that there's a massive, like we were talking earlier about influencers, you have now, whether you want it or not, you have a platform. You know, you have people who will follow and be inspired by you. Let's be real, on the flip side, there's probably a lot of negativity that comes with that as well. Probably not for you, but the more that your audience grows, the greater the criticism or critical aspect of those things are. How are you handling that? Has that changed a lot since Three Peaks? How are you handling having that audience and that following? And what's your thoughts on the social space generally?
I feel very lucky in the social space that, one, I actually don't spend that much time on social media, so I don't actually consume it. I obviously post, but I'm not the kind of, like, I'm not that much of a reader and a listener and a watcher. So I don't spend that much time consuming. And also I only follow kind of who I want, like who inspires me. I definitely do feel more pressure now to kind of to post and to kind of keep life up to date. But I actually think social media is a really powerful tool. And I think, yes, I also think with life, you kind of, it's what you like, the algorithm, you know, if you post kind of clickbait or like, you know, inappropriate things, or I don't know, you're going to get inappropriate comments and inappropriate messages, or it's like, you know, you're fishing for it. Whereas if you kind of, I think social media is really positive. I think there's a lot around it, but I think consume what I know it's easier said than done, but if you consume what you kind of want to consume and you bring what Instagram is bringing to you and whatever, then I've been very lucky. I've never had negative comments.
Great. Yeah, and I think that's good, because the sometimes people can feel almost like victims of the feed, of the content that's being thrown at them. But actually, you are responsible for curating the environment that you consume, and we sometimes forget that. And people talk about doom scrolling like it's an accepted thing that just happens, but actually it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah,
you know, it can be inspiring, and it can be, you know, bringing you closer to certain communities and learnings and opening your eyes up to things that you would never have been able to have an understanding of, because these things aren't on TV, or they're not out in you know, by your friends and things like that. So yeah, I agree with you. It's a really positive space, but I know that it's a real challenge as well for people to curate that and not fall victim to it.
Completely. And I mean, it can be incredibly negative, and I do know a lot of people that kind of feel that way towards it. But yeah, I must say, I just feel that I feel very lucky that I don't. I mean, I wish Instagram was like, I always say to my coach, like, I wish we just like, social media wasn't a thing, we could just all get on by our lives and like, you know, whatever. But I guess it's also kind of what funds my running now. So stick at it.
So on that, you've just got back from Chamonix. Amazing. You had the whole UTMB experience. And how was that?
Amazing. It was really cool. I went last year as well. And I wasn't actually racing this year. My boyfriend is a photographer. It's actually so weird. He's a photographer, and he was taking photos of a guy called Tom Evans. And Ruth Croft. Tom actually pulled out, but Ruth came third. Oh, wow. And he can't drive. And so I was driving him, and I'm rarely a crew. Like, I guess I really enjoyed it, but I'm rarely a crew member. I'm usually the athlete. So we were kind of driving to like Courmayeur or wherever we were going. And it was so weird being like on the other side of like tracking and crewing and then whatever, and like not having any sleep, and then like having a quick power nap or whatever. But it's cool, really cool. I would like to do kind of like UTMB or whatever, not next year, the year after. But I want to be like in the training ground for it at the moment. London isn't really the training ground for Chamonix. So until I'm in a space until I'm actually in the space where I can train, I won't do it.
And then it was when you were at UTMB that you announced that your partnership with Sun.
Yeah.
So that's a really exciting working with them.
Really exciting. They're a really amazing company. And actually it's all kind of aligned quite nicely because I've just become a guide runner. So hopefully we're going to do some cool things with guide running and Sun Gordon, whatever as well. So yeah.
And how do you get to having those relationships with those brands, and what are you looking for when you're thinking about like a brand will offer to, interested in partnering with you on something? What is it that you're looking for in terms of like the type of brand they are, or the values that they've got, or the audience that they have, or anything like that?
My biggest thing, I think, is for the brand to properly believe in me. Like, I think, and in anything, and like whoever, like even like a person or like a project or whatever I do, I really want them to like believe in me. I think I've had so many non-believers that I've like had to prove wrong, and actually like I'm very lucky that I've signed with Solomon and I haven't got bad words to say about them. But like when I first signed with them, it was a guy from Solomon who was like the UK marketing guy, who believed in me. And I remember him saying like there was no pedigree behind me apart from Joggle, which Joggle was amazing, but like, for a brand like Solomon, they kind of needed a bit more. I remember him saying, really push for you, whatever. And they did believe me, and I'm signing them again next year, which is amazing. But I think just for the brand to properly kind of believe in you and support, and
they're not ticking a box because
exactly
of what you can do for them. They're really seeing it
exactly
as a partnership.
Yeah.
And I guess that makes when you're engaging with their products, that's so much more meaningful because you know that it's perfectly suited for you and what you're trying to achieve. We haven't even talked about Three Peaks.
No.
Just tell me about, can you just even sum up the experience of Three Peaks?
Sum it up. Brutal. Bit of a whirlwind and life-changing.
Wow. Okay. All of those three words we need to dig into. So the brutal aspect of it, obviously, the Three Peaks Challenge is extremely harsh, extremely difficult in terms of its distance, elevation, the terrain, the length of it, and everything else. What were the moments when you think of, when you say brutal, was that physically because the challenge was a great one, or was it because of the mindset that you needed to come to complete it? And I've seen the pictures of you at the finish line, and I honestly, breaking that with a sense of
that video is so awful.
I love it.
I have had some hate in that video. Everyone's like, your face.
I think it's fantastic because it sums up for me a real sense of championship. Crossing that line, it shows what it means to you, and I just think that that's so much more important than anything else, because the fact that it meant so much to you to finish is hugely inspiring, because it makes the whole thing really real for anyone that really, we were rooting for you. So yes, let's go back to that sense of brutality about it.
I think it was brutal. That was obviously the first word I came up with. But I think also on reflection, my biggest thing, and I guess it's in anything in life, work, running, sport, play, whatever, is experience. And like looking back now, if I was to do Three Peaks again, not that I'm going to, then I would know, I'd never done anything in that capacity. I'd never been on my feet for that long, for those consecutive amount of days. I'd never had to do cat naps. I've never done like 30-minute cat napping and then gone again. I've never run in a heat wave like that. And so I think it was brutal, but I think also like, I guess you're right, like, you know also, like, I think you at the time you're like, it's brutal, but then on reflection you look back and you're like, okay, this and this, and then in the future you can like bring it to your next race or whatever and be like, oh, but actually this and this. So like, I guess it was brutal, but I think it's just also just like learning.
Yeah, and you had this amazing team around you. So it was Chris, wasn't it? Coach. Chris, your coach, obviously got you through some really kind of dark moments. And this is something that I just want to toss up with my personal experience. I've only ever done things without a crew, just on my own. And I think I would almost find it difficult to be surrounded by people, or having the extra responsibility of delivering for the crew. Because actually what I find is that I get into my own head, and I need to just really focus in on myself and do that. So did you kind of feel that sense of everybody's here, we've got to get this done, or how did the crew?
I think your crew just like, you need a crew that understands the situation. So like, if you had a good crew, you wouldn't feel that way, because if you're silent, they'll be silent because they understand that you want to be silent. If you're having a moment of happiness, then they're giggle with you and laugh with you because they're reading off you. There was one moment which I've spoken about quite a few times now, which basically it was like we decided to go through for the last 100 miles of the Three Peaks, and it was middle of the night. We were in Wales, and I knew my body, and I knew I needed to have a sleep. And I said to Chris, it was me, Josh, my friend Amy, and my boyfriend Tom. I think there's 5 of us. And 5 of us. We were all walking, running, whatever we were doing that moment in time. And I said to Chris, can you get the camper van to come to us? And I'll have my half an hour power nap, and then we'll go again. And he turned around, and to be fair to him, he was also tired. Like, obviously he was tired. Like, he'd been crewing me, hadn't left my side basically, so he had as much sleep as I'd had. And he was like, the camper van's 5k away. The camper van can't come down this road. You've got to keep going. And at that point, I like properly broke down. Like, I don't think any of my friends have probably ever seen me. Well, they wouldn't have seen me like that before. And it was horrible. Like, it was so dark. And I stood up and I said to Chris, I was like, I will keep going, but like, I have no idea the reason, like, why. Like, someone's been like, why should I keep going? I genuinely have no idea. Like, there's not a reason. I think half of it was because I was like to Chris, he had been by my side and I didn't want to let him down. Yeah. But the other half was just kind of like, yeah,
this is what I'm doing.
Because I can dig deep a bit further.
Yes. People at this moment, like, really think about why. And like, I'm too tired to think why. I don't know why. I don't know why anymore, but I'm too tired to fight it.
Literally, when people are like, do you listen to music? I was like, no. Do you listen to podcasts? No.
I just listened to my own brain tick
I just didn't even think. I just moved.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I guess in that sense, like that moment's time, there was definitely an element of like doing that for the crew. Yeah. But no, your crew, like, I love having a crew. Yeah. And like, I want to do 24-hour early next year. And like, one of the main reasons is genuinely because I can have a crew still. And I love having. Yeah.
When you've got that kind of support system around you, do you lean on them for things like judging your nutrition? How have you managed to create how do you even plan for something like that? Your fueling systems and things.
Yeah, they definitely help. I mean, our checkpoints were every like 10-15k, so they would like move ahead and be like, is craving
Coke.
Yeah, exactly. Can we have a Coke ready? Yeah. Or an ice cream clipper. Like, you have it ready for me. But you just get flavor fatigue so quickly. Like, I could eat, like, I remember the first day we were having like chicken soup and Mum was putting like pasta in it to make it a bit more like carb focused. And then it was like lukewarm because it was a heat wave. So like, we didn't want hot soup, but then I also needed to have like, that was what was doing with like, that's what I was stomaching really well. And then by day 2, like chicken soup was like, like a little bit.
Thought.
Yeah. And then it would be like, so I guess you just
get like a toddler basically.
Yeah. Basically, you're a big baby. But yeah, flavor fatigue was massive, and I remember hanging at McDonald's once. That was quite good.
Yeah. And so kind of skipping through all of that, when it ended, we talked about that finish line, that feeling of I was going to say elation, but was it elation? Was it exhaustion? What was it? Satisfaction? How did you feel when it was over and you had that moment perhaps when you had that first moment on your own and you were like, I did it?
There was satisfaction. I am very satisfied. No, I'm very proud of myself, but I wouldn't say I'm satisfied. Right. And I think that's okay. Yeah. Like, I think obviously I'm satisfied from it, but I want to do more. And I also think that is because it is like bringing it back to normal life. Running is a career for me now. Yeah. So like, I guess like anyone in work, well, not like anyone, because not everyone has that mindset, but like if you have that mindset, then you might be, I very academically I'm going to sell the story very badly because I don't know the ins and outs of what like those kind of work like jobs nowadays, but like if you want to sort of fight, you want to fight it better in work or life or whatever. So I guess it's like running for me is as much a career as it is like a passion. So like, I guess also I want to make money, so I want to get better so I can make more money. So I think bringing it back to life, it's like anything. Like, you're proud of yourself in your career, but you want to become better, Yeah. So
was there any element of like proving that you to yourself or proving to others that you did it, you could do it? And the reason I ask is that I've heard you speak before about when it might be earlier on in your career when you tried to speak to Brabs, for example, and they've just dismissed you because you don't look like someone that could do this type of challenge because you're young and you're female and you're petite and you're not it's like type of runner that you would expect that would be up climbing up these mountains. And was there a sense of like, well, I've done that, but like I showed them.
Yeah, definitely is. I think I won't never forget a story when before I'd done Joggle and Mum and Dad were in London and we went out for supper with some friends. I remember this guy being like to me, he was so rude to me, and he was basically saying that like what I was doing was stupid and I'd get injured and like this was just so wrong. And like I guess I am quite like a opinionated, punchy person, but like I went at him. And I remember when I finished, I actually think even Dad texted him being like, just to let you know, Imo has finished Joggle and X, Y, and Z. But I guess there is an element of like, I mean, brands definitely haven't believed in me, and there is an element of proving. And as I said, I guess it's also a career for me now. So I want to.
You said it was life changing. So life changing in the sense that of your the way that you're viewed by people, or the doors that it's opened for you, or where you can now benchmark your next stage.
I think a bit of everything. I think so. To rewind, but after Joggle, I went traveling for a bit and took some time out and became did full online run coaching. So traveled and did online coaching. Was very lucky that kind of being online, I could do it anywhere. And moved to Australia. I then came back from Australia and decided that actually, I think after being away, I didn't know whether being running as a full-time career was going to be a thing, or whether I was going to like dabble in running and enjoy running and have a kind of like full-time job as well. So I got a job as a PA, and I was a PA for like 4 months, and then soon realized that actually like running kind of was what I wanted to do. But I think having 3 peaks was definitely a moment when it made me realize that like I could either be an influencer, I'm saying influencer in kind of inverted commas, because I could be like a person kind of lifestyle and just be a kind of figure and like enjoy running and be a good runner, or I could go at my running and like see where I could go and kind of be the best I could be as an athlete and kind of sacrifice again in inverted commas, because I don't see it as sacrifice, but sacrifice a bit, or I could go out to like a 9 to 5 and just kind of want to, like, there's different avenues, but I guess 3Ps kind of made me realize that actually I wanted to give it my best shot as a runner, which I guess for me career wise, I guess I've been kind of plateauing career wise because it's been like making money and then you spend on a challenge, making money, spend on a challenge, and I guess I'm 25 and I kind of want to have a career as well, so it's kind of making that decision. So that's where it kind of made me realize that. And, you know, who knows, like if it doesn't work out, then I've given it my shot and that's what it is. But I wouldn't know if I didn't do it.
And how do you find, I don't know if this is an annoying question for you, or sometimes I find this is a bit of an annoying question people ask me, but I'll ask anyway. How do you find like balance? How do you rest, recover? And the reason why I find it difficult is sometimes annoying, because when you have these built-in, like, we've talked about resilience, about putting the building blocks in, keeping the routine, you know, showing up. Where that then can be difficult to manage, or at least I find it difficult to manage mentally, is that there's got to be some recovery and rest periods that goes into that as well. Those two things feel really at odds, and it's quite difficult to manage. I don't know, is that challenging for you to manage? Or
yeah, I think, to be honest, I think it is just like anyone, isn't it, in life? I think just managing it is hard. I am very lucky, and like I do still do some run coaching, and when I talk to my clients, I'm like, and they're like, I'm struggling to get this in, and I'm like, I get it, I completely get it. Like, you know, you've got a full-time job, you might have kids, you might have a friend, like whatever, you've got like stuff going on. But I think it is hard. I think I know a lot of top athletes kind of sacrifice their whole life. I won't lie, I'm probably not ready to sacrifice my whole life. As much as I kind of want to get better and better, I also do enjoy having a life. And my friends, like I have obviously got a lot of running friends, and the running community is incredible, but I also have a lot of friends that kind of not do that because it's still very good, but you know, do half an hour HIIT session in the morning and then that's be it, or actually don't exercise at all, and that is totally fine, and prefer having a drink, which is also totally fine. So I think I've actually reconnected massively with a lot of my old school friends, more recently, which has been so nice because I'd probably call them my normal friends. And my running friends aren't my normal friends. But yes, I've reconnected with my normal friends, which has actually been really nice.
Like that. I had to get the train to work the other day because I was supposed to be doing this thing on challenge on Saturday, so I was supposed to be tapering. So I got the train in on Friday, and I texted my fiance and said, "I'm on the train still." And then he replied like, "Yeah, like a normal person."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right."
Yeah.
Like he was like, "No, I'm not impressed. You need a reality check. Like, you're being normal today. Congratulations."
I know. Sometimes I do think I am like, imagine if I could just wake up, go to like do a quick gym class, and then just, you know, do my day's work, and then go out for a drink with a friend, and you know, that'd be
not have this constant striving.
Yeah.
But it's the constant striving that makes your life fulfilled. Because,
exactly.
But for you, and I think that's so inspiring and wonderful to hear that you have created this, you have built this, and you've put yourself into these challenges, you've ideated them, and then you've actioned them, and you've made them come real, and you've made them work for you in terms of your entire lifestyle. And that, like you've said a number of times in this conversation, is the big takeaway. The big takeaway isn't about the running. When I spoke to Ali Bailey, I was talking about how it's not her book. It's not about running. It's about overcoming. That's the big thing that I talked about with her.
I think anyone is able to do it. It's just kind of whether you want to do it. Like, I think in anything, like, anyone's capable of kind of overcoming and achieving. But it's whether you actually kind of want to take action and overcome or achieve. And
that's a really inspiring and lovely takeaway, and a great kind of way to wrap up this conversation, which has been everything I hoped it would be. Just one kind of question that I wanted to end on, and might be a bit of a tricky one, but because obviously I talked to you at the beginning, this is all about kind of create brave and the idea of creating our own sense of what courage means to us. And I just wondered, what does bravery mean to you?
I think what bravery means to me is, well, I think taking the leap. And I say taking the leap. I guess you can read leap and kind of read that in however way, obviously, form you want to read that. But I think bravery means just taking the leap.
Yeah, taking action.
Yeah,
and going for it.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of courage to.
And in anything, I think that's my biggest thing.
The unknown.
Yeah, hasn't got to just be running, you know. And also, and this is kind of going off on tangent, but I also I really don't like water, and I swam 10K in Lake Windermere when I was 17, and genuinely that has satisfied me. There is I do get satisfied. That was fine. 10K in the Lake Windermere, I won't be nothing drives me to suddenly swim the English Channel because I've done 10K in Lake Windermere or whatever. That was me done. I think I was brave. It was a massive thing for me, but done it. And I think sometimes you can be brave. You only need to do it once, or only overcome it once, and actually you've been brave enough to overcome it once, and actually that's sometimes enough. You haven't then got to do more.
Perfect.
So
thank you so much.
No, thank you. I hope that was okay.
I absolutely love talking with you. Like I said, it was everything that I hoped it would be, because I've obviously listened to you talk on so many things, and I just find you so interesting and inspiring, and I just think you've got such a well-rounded view of where running fits into your life and the value that it brings and the learnings that you get from it, and then you want to just share that with everybody, and I just relate to it really hard, and I think lots of people will. So thank you so much.
Thank you.